So what does it mean to be a raging Cajun? Southwest Louisiana, wreck your face, man. Still don't get it in, I'ma let you know. All you gotta do is come and join the show.
Yo, what is up? We are the highest tier pot of your weekly unfiltered wrestling and entertainment. Welcome to the World Elite Podcast. We're free and available wherever you get your podcasts. We're on YouTube and Twitch as well. I'm Marcus at MarcusElite337 on Twitter, and I'm joined with Dylan. What's up, man? Where can we find you?
Hey, man, I'm doing pretty good. I'm on Twitter at DylanAbear_.
Great, and we're not going to waste any time. We got a big guest for you guys tonight. You know, for the last 2 years, all the wrestlers we've talked over the years, if there wasn't wrestling in the indies, we've talked with guys who've worked with WWE, ECW, GCW, MLW, Impact, AEW, and Ring of Honor. And for the first time, we got a guest from New Japan Pro Wrestling, or New Japan Strong, what you'd like to say. He's currently in Tempe, Arizona right now, but please welcome the Wild Rhino. Mr. Clark Connors is in the house. What's going on, man?
What up, guys? I'm sorry that I couldn't get you guys a Bushi, but I'll be a close second for you.
Oh, no problem, man. Thank you for joining us today.
Yeah, thanks for having me, boys.
Oh, you're welcome. But before I hand it off to Dylan, just tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, I grew up outside of Seattle, Washington, in a small country town. I like long walks in the park, and brunettes, blondes, redheads are all good for me. And I love drinking beer and hanging out and just doing fun stuff and kicking ass.
Nice.
There you go.
That's the way to kick off an interview and everything right there. So, Dylan, whenever you're ready, man, I'm going to hand it off to you, man. Take it away.
All right, man. So I'm going to start out with something pretty simple. What was your biggest influence for getting into professional wrestling?
Okay. That's pretty broad. I like it. The biggest influence is probably just got to been just over the years. I've always been an athlete. I always loved playing football, and I played football in college. So I wanted to always do something athletically, right, with my life. But then I started to realize that I might be a good athlete. Some would say a great athlete, but not good enough to play on the professional level by any means in any sport, unless I started playing lacrosse when I was like 6, which I could have probably done, but fuck that shit. No, but I wanted to rather do something where it combines athleticism with I started getting into theater when I got a little older. I love movies, and so we just kind of combine the two of them. So my biggest influence would probably just be, I don't know, trying to be an athlete, trying to be an athlete, trying to be the best I can be. But in this day and age, athletes are so there's so many of them. So I got to find my own niche.
So what's the story behind a Wild Rhino persona? I'm very interested in that.
Yeah, man. So for me, the whole Wild Rhino thing it's an extension of who I am, really. Like I'm always been the type of person who it's like it's go go go. That's where the Rhino thing came out of, because it just kind of. So I looked at my style in the ring. We were trying to figure out something that would exemplify that, whether it be an adjective or a noun or an animal, whatever it is, and end up thinking, oh, it's a rhino, because I charge through people, hit a spear, always going, changing direction quickly, very athletic, stocky build definitely helps too. And then the whole wild part of it is just we're trying to think of a kind of a fun little moniker to add to the front of it. And at first, I was thinking to be the white rhino, because they're very rare, basically, and there's few of them left, and it might be extinct at this point. And plus, going to Japan, being white, it kind of was a throwback to the old '80s style of wrestling. But actually, it was Alex Coughlin that suggested the Wild Rhino persona, and then it just made so much sense, because that's kind of how I am in every aspect of life. You want to go out drinking with me, we're gonna get wild. You want to go to the gym, we're gonna get in there, we're gonna bust ass, we're gonna get wild. So it really ended up working inside outside the ring for me.
So what was the hardest part about becoming a young lion?
I think the hardest thing would have to be just like giving up all my rights and like uh, things that I would do as a human being. I always kind of joke about it because I think I joined the dojo when I was maybe 25 or so, or 24, 25. I can't really remember. But I'd already graduated from college, and in college, I I lived in an RV and rode my motorcycle to school. I was a fucking cool dude. And then, 3 years later, I'm I'm cooking dinner for a Japanese dude and and just doing chores and not being able to go outside and have a girlfriend or any of that shit. So yeah, that was definitely the hardest part, was just giving up my general humanity. I think.
So let's talk about Forbidden Door. Obviously, everyone knows you were not originally scheduled to be in that four-way match for the All Atlantic Championship, but quickly, and I mean very quickly before Forbidden Door, you were inserted into the match because of injury. So how quickly of a sequence of events was it getting you into the match, finding out about the injury, getting you to Chicago? Just how quickly did everything go?
Yeah, it was a whirlwind. I've mentioned this before. I can't remember the exact dates as it gets farther away from it, but I believe that what the Ridden Door must have been on maybe a Saturday or a Sunday. Let's just say it was on a Sunday. So I
Mm.
probably got the word that Ishii was hurt on Friday morning, like Japan time. So it was probably, and then basically they came in, like checked with me, like, hey, you want to go to you want to go to America? And I was like, for like what, 2 days? Okay, let's go. So I think it must have been 36 hours beforehand, and just in and out, just, and that's how it is in wrestling. But it was good because it didn't really give me enough time to prepare even, which is which was actually a plus for me because it was just like, just go out there and do your thing, and end up, they didn't win the title, but it ended up working out, I think, pretty well.
So, kind of staying on the topic of Forbidden Door, let's say one day, somewhere down the line in the future, that New Japan does a cross promotion show with the WWE. Is there anyone over there in particular that you would love to step into the ring with?
Ooh, that's a good question. Carl Fredericks. No, that's a joke. Um, I think I would love to get over there, and I so many of those guys that I've watched for years. Like a guy like Dolph Ziggler or something. Or AJ Styles, dude, that can just go with anybody. And I would love to, and or like Randy Orton would be another one too, where I would love to go in there and just lock up with them and roll with them and just be like, and just let myself know, like, okay, am I on that level with those guys, which I 100% believe I am. But I would love just the ability to just feel that out, see how it goes.
So, I want to jump to Wrestle Kingdom 17 that just happened this past January. Right at the beginning of January. It was my first ever Wrestle Kingdom show I watched. It's extremely early over here that I have to wake up to watch that. But given the card, I had to watch it. It was so good. And whenever you think about Wrestle Kingdom, uh, people talk about either the Omega Osprey match, the Jay White and Okada, but a lot of people also talk about the debut of Mercedes Monet. So what was the reaction like whenever she had debuted, and how big of an impact do you think she'll make on that women's division?
Well, she's a big name. You know what I mean? I think, like, as good as all those girls in Stardom are and in New Japan are, when it comes to name and drawing power, Mercedes Monet is the number one. Uh, Bigger than any Kyrie Sane, bigger than any well, not Io Shirai anymore, but when she was over there, any of those girls when they were over there, that's that WWE clout. And I think it drew a lot of eyes to the product. And I haven't met her yet, honestly, but from all accounts, she seems like a good fucking. She's in it for the long haul, which is what I want to hear. And as long as she's bringing money to the product, I'm really excited for it.
Yeah, so this is my final question before I hand it off to Marcus. First of all, Clark, thank you for joining the show, man. Taking your time out of your schedule, come hang out with us for a little while.
No problem, man. Of course.
Uh, so I started off simple, out in simple. What's your goal for this year? What you hope to accomplish?
Well, biggest goal right now for me is I want to win the Best of Super Juniors. So that's coming
Mhm.
up in May, and really just establishing myself as a top star, not only in the junior division of New Japan, but in all of New Japan. And especially, I didn't have a match I wasn't even in Japan for the actual for Wrestle Kingdom this year or New Year's Dash. So to have a big match on Wrestle Kingdom, I think is another big deal for me, and hopefully be defending the junior title once I pick it up this year.
Awesome. Well, speaking of Wrestle Kingdom, is there a dream match you would like to have in the Tokyo Dome for that event?
A dream match, okay. It would definitely have to be a singles match for me. I gotta think about it. You know what I would love is I would love to wrestle Shibata in the Tokyo Dome.
Okay.
Not just that 5 minute match that him and Narita had. I want the real deal. I want Ketsuo Shibata at top of his game, train for 3 months, get ready for it. Hope he trains for three. Like, I know he will. So we'll go out there and defeat the shit out of each other. But yeah, I think that would be for me. I think that's a career goal. At some point.
Yeah. Speaking of Shibata, what was the differences in learning under Shibata compared to Lance Storm?
Did your research. I like it. Yeah, so they're weirdly similar and weirdly different in a lot of ways. Uh, so Shibata, obviously, there's that whole language barrier and the fact that you live with the guy for all this time, so you get to know him a little bit closer. But I would say the way I always break it down is that Lance was like my elementary school teacher, basically. Like he taught me the basics of everything, of how to safely take a bump, how to throw a strike, X, Y, and Z, how to do a hip toss, whatever it might be. Versus Shibata stuff is more of a college level course, or like even a high school level course, where we really break it down. We learn the specifics of Japanese wrestling, especially the idiosyncrasies, and then yeah, and then it's obviously a lot more stuff like, and not that Lance couldn't do that or doesn't do that. I think it's just one of those things where that's what isn't what he was teaching at the time. And I still speak to Lance on occasion, and he definitely could teach a fucking master's level course, a PhD course in wrestling for no doubt. But in my time with him, it was just more like a basis of everything.
All right. Was there any added expectations put on you, Coughlin, and Fredericks being part of the first class in the LA Dojo?
Oh yeah, yeah. I think we were not only were the guinea pigs, but we're the proof of concept. To let this company know that they're doing the right thing. Like we weren't supposed to have an LA dojo, in its in the sense of bringing in guys and training and all that for another. We were about 2 years ahead of schedule. Like it was one of those things where Shibata came in and we are just gonna do camps for a while, and he saw me wrestling, and he said, "Hey, dude, fucking." You come back for some more camps, and we're gonna get you a job, basically. And he did the same for Alex, and then Carl down the line. But yeah, because of how we performed at those camps, it made them realize, okay, we could start this thing up a couple of years early. And shit, if it didn't happen, honestly, with COVID happening, and everything, there might never been an LA dojo. So that's just something to think about. But yeah, I'd say that. So that's a little bit of pressure.
Okay. I watched one of your matches not long ago when you wrestled Tom Lawler for the Strong Openweight Championship. It happened about a couple of months ago around Tampa. Tell us about that match.
So that was actually I think last year, but a couple months in the past. But yeah, that was a fun little match. That was when I was kind of at my peak on Strong. Before I started going over to Japan a lot again. Um, and it was good for me to get in there with a guy like Tom. I've known Tom for a long time, since I started coming up actually in wrestling. 'Cause he's kind of in the same area as me. Um, but yeah, that was fun. It was one of those things where I always like wrestling with Tom. I love watching his matches. But my whole thing with him is everybody who tries to wrestle him tries to wrestle a Tom Lawler match, and it's just like this dude is in the fucking UFC, dude. Like if you go if you go up against this guy and try to strike against him or get a submission battle, like you're gonna lose. Like he knows what he's doing. So my whole tack with that was kind of a different part of the wild side of me, where it was like, okay, I'm gonna try to fuck with him, get in his head early in the match, and not do the whole strong style Shibata guy thing. So yeah, it was a good little match, but it was obviously I didn't win, so that's kind of always sucks.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure Japan's pretty fun to be at, and beautiful country and everything, but I'm pretty sure it can be difficult with that lifestyle. But how do you communicate with the Japanese stars when putting together a match on a nightly basis?
Well, I speak a good little bit of Japanese. It's been a while since I haven't been over there in a little bit, but when I'm over there, I really get immersed in it. But more than anything, they wrestling's its own language, inside and out. It's a universal language. So a lot of it is just whatever I mean by putting a match together. Just as long as you're when you're talking to these people, it's it's its own language. Is the only way I can put it. Yeah.
Okay. So one of your accomplishments in New Japan, you won the Lions Break Crown tournament back in during the pandemic, where you've had three matches. You beat Jordan Clearwater, Logan Regal, and then you won the tournament against Danny Limelight. Let's talk about that tournament from New Japan Strong there, the Lions Break Crown.
Yeah, man. So that was kind of like during the early days of New Japan Strong. It was in that fucking whatever, the Phantom Zone up in Port Hueneme with no crowd. Um, but it was a great experience for me. That's when I was really at I think, working my most in New Japan as that right in that cusp of not being a young lion anymore. Just busted my ass. I was working a bunch of matches on all those shows, and it was just a cool opportunity to get to be involved with a lot of the up and comers, like all those guys, like Clearwater and Limelight. Both of them are big stars right now in that and the champion in the United Wrestling Network and the Championship Wrestling from Hollywood and Arizona scene. They're former champions. They're heavy. Or right now, Danny's actually the heavyweight champion. I'm actually wrestling him on next Tuesday at the Improv in Irvine. So that's how's that for a shitty promo by me? Uh, no, but it was really cool to be put in that spot and got to wrestle some of the up and comers, and I think that the right guy won the whole thing. So it was good for them to see that I could actually win some matches and carry something on my own.
You think it'd have been a lot bigger to you if you won it in front of a crowd than to win it in front of nobody?
Yeah, I mean, that's a big part of it, right? It's just like wrestling, you get into it for whatever reason you get into it, but a big part of it is like that emotion that comes from a crowd. Like, you know, I think anybody who gets into wrestling at some level has a level of narcissism above the normal human being. And I think that it feeds that ego when you win, you hold up a trophy or whatever it is, and the crowd just fucking reacts right back to you and you feed off each other. So without that, it really takes away from a little bit of the moment. But I can never complain about what's happened, and it got me better in so many other ways to win that title. Without that, it keeps me hungry in a way, to have that big win happen in front of people next.
Yeah. I don't really like to bring up that pandemic era a lot because I know it was a rough time, but did you have at least maybe one favorite match of the pandemic era during New Japan Strong?
Yeah. Actually, that finals match with Danny was pretty good, but I liked some of the stuff that was going on with just between us LA Dojo guys. We were really just going in there and beating the shit out of each other. Like I had one with Carl, and I had one with Alex Coughlin, Carl Fredericks and Alex Coughlin, singles matches with them. And I ended up wrestling all the different guys, but like at that point, Kevin Knight and DKC were kind of like really low on the totem pole, so they weren't much of matches necessarily. But the other guys, it was a chance for us to go in there and feel each other out and show everybody that how good we can be. And it was one of those things where it's like if you take those exact matches and you put them in front of people, they're fucking, people be going nuts for them. But based on the situation and where we were, I think they got underplayed a little bit, which is a bummer. But once again, it is what it is.
This will be my last question. What was your favorite match you've ever wrestled?
I always say the next one is my favorite because honestly, it's like they all feel good. Like I'm not all of them, but most of them feel pretty similar. Once you're getting done with it, but it always leads to the next thing. And it's fun to look back on things. But if I had to give you just like an actual answer, let's see here, it would probably be a match I had at Defy, or in Washington Hall at the Defy venue. I really had a fun match with TJP there. That's on New Japan Strong, I think. That was kind of a blow off to our big feud, and I really enjoyed that match a lot, just because technically it was what it was, but just the crowd, the energy there was just so fucking fun, which I always love.
That's awesome to hear. Well, Clark, thank you again for joining us. This was so fun. Before you go, let the listeners know where they can find you on social media.
Yeah, man, I'm at Clark Connors and on Twitter, I believe, and at Clark.Connors on Instagram. Couldn't get the Clark Connors, those sons of bitches. So find me there, and then I will be wrestling if you're in the Irvine area, the Championship Wrestling from Hollywood. I'll be there on the 7th of February, and then New Japan Strong Battle in the Valley. I should be up there, and that's on the 17th of February as well. And then I will see you guys all at WrestleCon as well. I have a table set up, so come on by.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to Battle in the Valley. I'll definitely be checking that out. But Dylan, do you have any last words you want to say before we close out?
No, man, I got nothing.
All right. Well, you can find the podcast on Twitter at World Elite Pod. We're also on Facebook and Instagram as well. We're free and available wherever you get your podcasts. Like I mentioned, we're on YouTube and Twitch. Be sure to give us a 5-star rating or review on any audio platform. We're on Spotify, Spreaker, Google Pod, Apple Pod, iHeartRadio. We're everywhere, taking over. So, Clark, thank you again. We wish you nothing but the very best. Good luck in your future, and we hopefully come across you again next time. But until then, this is the World Elite Podcast. Thank you for tuning in. We'll see you guys next time. Y'all have a good one.
So what does it mean to be a raging Cajun? Southwest Louisiana, wreck your face, man. Still don't get it in, I'ma let you know. All you gotta do is come and join the show.